The morning sun rose over New Haven Colony like it had every day for the past 3 years. Jake Murphy stood at his office window, watching the miners walk toward the drilling sites. Their boots kicked up small clouds of red dust as they moved across the barren landscape. The planet Kepler 442c was not a pretty place, but it was home now. Jake sipped his coffee and checked the daily reports on his tablet. Production was steady. The rare mineral deposits were rich, and Earth needed every ounce they could dig up. The colony was small. Just 847 people living in connected domes spread across 10 square miles of rocky ground. Most other colonies had thousands of people. New Haven was one of the smallest human settlements in known space. The communication array blinked with routine messages from other colonies and supply ships. Nothing important. Earth Command had not sent any updates in weeks. Jake sometimes wondered if anyone back home even remembered they existed out here. The nearest Earth Defense Force base was 3 months away by the fastest ship. If trouble came to New Haven, they would be on their own. A knock on his door interrupted his thoughts. Ben Rodriguez walked in carrying his usual morning coffee and a data pad. Ben was the colony's security chief, a job that mostly meant checking locks and settling arguments between miners. He was a big man with dark hair and serious eyes that seemed to notice everything. "Morning, Jake," Ben said, settling into the chair across from the desk. "Got the weekly security report ready?" Jake nodded. "Anything interesting happening?" "Same as always. Couple of guys got drunk and started a fight at Murphy's bar. Fixed the broken fence around Sector 7. Oh, and I want to run another emergency drill next week." Jake looked up from his tablet. "Another one? We just had one 2 weeks ago." Ben shrugged. "You never know when we might need to evacuate fast. Better safe than sorry." Jake did not argue. Ben took his job seriously, maybe too seriously sometimes. The emergency drills were thorough but seemed unnecessary. What kind of emergency could happen on a mining colony in the middle of nowhere? Still, Ben was good at his job, and the colonists trusted him. After Ben left, Jake walked outside to make his daily rounds. The colony looked peaceful in the morning light. Children played between the domes while their parents worked. The air recyclers hummed quietly, mixing with the distant sound of mining equipment. Everything seemed normal and safe. Dr. Lisa Carter was working near the main mining facility when Jake found her. She was bent over a control panel, making adjustments to something. Lisa was the colony's chief engineer, a smart woman who could fix anything that broke. Her brown hair was pulled back in a ponytail, and her work clothes were covered in grease stains. "How are the new modifications coming along?" Jake asked. Lisa looked up and smiled. "Great progress. These efficiency improvements should boost our output by 20%. Jake was impressed. "That's amazing. Earth Command will be happy to hear that." "I hope so," Lisa said, turning back to her work. "I've been putting in a lot of extra hours on this project." Jake noticed she seemed secretive about the details, but he trusted her judgment. Lisa had been working on various improvements since she arrived 2 years ago. The mining equipment ran better than ever under her care. As Jake continued his walk, he saw other familiar faces. Sam Torres was teaching a group of younger colonists how to operate the heavy machinery. Sam was an older man with gray hair and strong hands from years of hard work. He was patient with the new arrivals but demanded they learn everything properly. Maria Gonzalez was checking the colony's small fleet of transport vehicles. She was the head pilot and kept all their aircraft in perfect condition. Maria was known for her skill at flying in difficult weather, and she often helped with emergency supply runs to remote mining sites. The day passed like most others. People worked, ate meals together in the communal dining hall, and relaxed in the evening. Jake attended a meeting about expanding the mining operations and reviewed supply requests. Normal colony business that kept everyone busy. That night, Jake sat in his quarters reading reports from other human settlements. Some colonies reported problems with equipment failures or personnel disputes. Others complained about slow supply deliveries or communication problems. New Haven seemed to avoid most of these issues. Their people worked well together and their equipment ran smoothly. A soft chime from his communication system interrupted his reading. an incoming message from the long-range sensors that monitored space around their system. Jake opened the file and read the automatic report. Several objects had been detected at the edge of the system, but they were too far away to identify clearly. Probably just asteroids or space debris, Jake thought. The sensors picked up false readings sometimes. He made a note to have Lisa check the equipment tomorrow, then closed the file and went to bed. Far above the planet, in the cold darkness of space, alien ships moved silently through the void. They had been watching New Haven Colony for weeks, studying the human settlement and counting its defenses. The observers saw exactly what they expected to see: a small, weak colony with no military protection and outdated equipment. Commander Vextar reviewed the surveillance data one final time. The humans had basic mining tools, simple transport, vehicles, and no weapons that his sensors could detect. Their communication array was old and their defensive systems were almost non-existent. This would be an easy conquest. He composed his report to the invasion fleet. Target confirmed as previously assessed. Population, 847 humans. Military presence, none detected. Defensive capabilities, minimal. Recommend standard pacification. Protocol, resistance expected to be negligible. The message was sent through hyperspace to Admiral Krexnoth, commander of the Zephyrian War Fleet. Soon, very soon, the humans would learn what happened to species that settled in territory the Zephyrian Empire wanted for itself. But Commander Vextar had made the same mistake that many aliens made when observing human colonies. He saw what appeared to be weakness and assumed it was real weakness. He noticed the lack of obvious military equipment and concluded the humans could not fight. He observed their peaceful daily routines and decided they were soft and unprepared. The commander did not look deeper. He did not wonder why so many of the colonists moved with military precision during their daily tasks. He did not question why their emergency drills were so thorough and well organized. He did not notice that many of the miners had the alert eyes and confident posture of trained soldiers. Most importantly, he did not realize that sometimes the most dangerous humans were the ones who chose to live quiet lives far from conflict. These were people who had already proven themselves in battle and now wanted peace. But they had not forgotten how to fight, and they would not hesitate to protect their new home. The alien commander finished his surveillance and prepared to leave. His job was done. Soon the invasion fleet would arrive and New Haven Colony would fall like so many other human settlements. At least that was what he believed would happen. Down on the planet's surface, the colonists slept peacefully, unaware that their quiet lives were about to change forever. The alarm that woke Jake Murphy at 5:30 in the morning was not his usual wake-up call. This was the emergency communication alert, the one that had never sounded before in New Haven's 3-year history. Jake rolled out of bed and stumbled to his communication console, still half asleep. The screen showed an incoming priority message from deep space. Jake's blood went cold as he read the sender identification: unknown alien vessel. His hand shook slightly as he opened the message and began to read. Humans of the mining colony designated New Haven, the message began. This is Admiral Krexnoth of the Zephyrian Empire. Your settlement exists in territory claimed by our people. You have 1 standard hour to evacuate all personnel and equipment from this world. Any humans remaining after this time will be eliminated through complete biological sterilization. This is your only warning. Jake stared at the screen for a long moment, his mind racing. An alien invasion fleet was demanding they abandon their home. He looked out his window at the peaceful colony domes, where families were probably still sleeping. In 1 hour, all of this could be gone. He quickly put on his clothes and ran to the communication center. The message needed to go out to everyone immediately. Jake activated the colony-wide emergency broadcast system, something he had hoped never to use. Attention all residents of New Haven Colony. His voice echoed through every dome and building. This is Colony Administrator Murphy. We have received a hostile communication from an alien force. All personnel report to designated emergency stations immediately. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill. Within minutes, people began emerging from their homes. Some looked confused and frightened. Others moved with purpose as if they had been expecting this moment. Jake noticed that the older residents seemed calmer than the newer arrivals. Ben Rodriguez appeared at Jake's side, already fully dressed and carrying a communication device. "I've got the emergency teams assembling," he said. "What's our situation?" Jake showed him the alien message. Ben read it carefully, his expression growing serious. "1 hour," he said quietly. "They're not giving us much time." "What do we do?" Jake asked. "We can't evacuate everyone in an hour. The transport ships are all on supply runs." Ben looked out at the colonists gathering in the main square. "Maybe we don't need to evacuate," he said. Before Jake could ask what he meant, Dr. Lisa Carter came running up to them. She was carrying a data pad and looked excited rather than frightened. "Jake, I need to show you something important," she said. "Lisa, we're in the middle of an emergency," Jake said. "An alien fleet is demanding we leave." "I know," she said. "That's exactly why you need to see this." She turned her datapad toward him. "Those efficiency improvements I've been working on, they weren't just for mining." Jake looked at the screen. Instead of mining equipment diagrams, he saw weapon schematics and defensive system layouts. "What is this?" "Our real defensive capabilities," Lisa said. "I've been converting our mining equipment for the past 2 years. Those big excavation lasers can be reconfigured as particle beam weapons. The ore processing stations can generate electromagnetic pulse fields. Even our transport vehicles have been modified." Jake stared at her in shock. "You've been building weapons without telling anyone?" "Not just me," Lisa said. "Ben's been coordinating the whole project. We've been preparing for this day since we arrived." Jake turned to Ben, who nodded. "Most of the older colonists know about it," Ben said. "We've been having those emergency drills for a reason. Every adult in this colony has military training, Jake. We didn't come here to hide from conflict. We came here to build something worth defending." More colonists approached their group. Sam Torres walked up carrying a heavy equipment bag. Maria Gonzalez was right behind him wearing a flight suit. Both of them looked ready for action, not evacuation. "What are your orders, Ben?" Sam asked. "Protocol 7, Ben replied simply. Sam nodded and began talking into his radio. "All units, this is Torres. We're implementing Protocol 7. Repeat. Protocol 7 is now active." Jake watched in amazement as the colonists around him transformed. The confused and frightened people from a few minutes ago were now moving. With military precision, groups formed and dispersed to different areas of the colony. Equipment was being moved from storage areas Jake didn't even know existed. "Protocol 7? Jake asked. "Our defense plan," Ben explained. "We've been running drills for 2 years, but we called them emergency preparedness exercises. Every person in this colony knows their role." Maria spoke into her communication device. "Flight control, this is Gonzalez. Beginning pre-flight checks on all aircraft. We'll be ready in 20 minutes. "Aircraft?" Jake said. "We only have basic transport shuttles." Maria smiled. "That's what they look like from the outside. Lisa and I have made some modifications to the engines and weapon systems. High above the planet, the Zephyrian war fleet dropped out of hyperspace. 200 ships of various sizes filled the space around Kepler 442c. The massive vessels blocked outstars as they took orbital positions. Admiral Krex Noth stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Void Render, watching the human colony through long-range sensors. "Status report," he commanded. "Fleet deployment complete, Admiral," his tactical officer replied. "All ships in position for orbital bombardment. Dropship bays are loaded and ready for surface assault." "What about the human response?" Krex Noth asked. "Strange, sir. Our intelligence indicated they would attempt to flee, but the colonists appear to be moving to defensive positions instead." Krex Noth frowned. "Defensive positions? What defenses could they possibly have?" "Unknown, sir. Our scanners are detecting unusual energy readings from their mining facility, but we cannot identify the source." The Admiral looked at the time display. 45 minutes remained until the deadline. "Monitor their communications," he ordered. "I want to know what they're planning." On the planet's surface, human radio chatter filled the airwaves. The Zephyrian communications specialist translated the messages, but many of the phrases made no sense. "Rabbit season is open," one voice said. "Time for spring cleaning," another replied. "The garbage needs to go out," a third voice added. "What do these phrases mean?" Krexnoth demanded. "Unknown, sir. They appear to be some kind of coded language." The Admiral was becoming irritated. His intelligence reports had indicated this would be a simple operation. The humans were supposed to run in panic, making the conquest easy. Instead, they seemed to be organizing some kind of resistance. "Sir," the tactical officer called out, "the human colony is powering up their main reactor. Energy output is increasing rapidly." "For what purpose?" "We're not sure, sir. The energy is being directed to their mining equipment and several other locations around the colony." Krexnoth checked the time again. 30 minutes left. He had given the humans enough time to prepare whatever futile resistance they thought they could mount. It was time to show them the power of the Zephyrian Empire. "Begin the attack," he ordered. "Launch dropships for surface assault. Charge orbital bombardment weapons. Let's finish this quickly." "Yes, sir. All ships, commence attack pattern Alpha." The alien fleet began to move. Hundreds of smaller ships detached from the main vessels and began descending toward the planet. The larger ships powered up their massive weapons, preparing to destroy the human colony from orbit. On the surface, Ben Rodriguez watched the alien ships through his binoculars. "Here they come," he said into his radio. "All units prepare for contact. Remember your training and trust your equipment." Jake stood beside him, still trying to understand what was happening. "Ben, there are hundreds of ships up there. How can we possibly fight them?" Ben lowered his binoculars and looked at Jake with a confident smile. "Jake, you've been thinking of us as miners and engineers and families. That's not wrong, but it's not the whole truth either." "What do you mean?" "We're all those things, but we're something else too. We're soldiers who chose to become civilians. But when someone threatens our home and our families, we remember how to be soldiers again." Ben raised his radio. "All stations. This is Rodriguez. The enemy is beginning their attack. You know what to do. Make them regret coming here." The response came back from dozens of voices across the colony. "Copy that, Chief. Time to show these aliens what humans do to uninvited guests." As the first alien dropships entered the atmosphere, the colonists of New Haven prepared to defend their home. They were outnumbered 50 to 1, facing an enemy with superior technology and overwhelming firepower. By all logical analysis, they should have been preparing to die. Instead, they were preparing to win. The first alien dropships entered the atmosphere at exactly 14:30 local time. Jake Murphy watched from the colony command center as dozens of enemy vessels streaked down through the sky like falling stars. Each ship carried 50 Zephyrian warriors armed with advanced weapons. Admiral Krexnoth had sent over 2,000 soldiers to crush a mining colony of less than 900 people. Ben Rodriguez stood at the main control panel, his finger hovering over a large red button. "Lisa, are all systems ready?" he called. Out Dr. Lisa Carter's voice came back through the radio from the mining facility. "All weapons are online and fully charged. Defensive systems are active. We're ready to give them a very warm welcome." "Copy that," Ben said. He looked at Jake. "You might want to hold on to something. This is going to get loud." Ben pressed the button. The transformation of New Haven Colony was instant and shocking. What had looked like simple mining equipment suddenly revealed its true nature. The large excavation lasers that had been digging ore from the ground swiveled upward and began tracking the incoming dropships. The ore processing stations opened, hidden panels to reveal electromagnetic pulse generators. Even the storage building split apart to show weapon batteries that had been concealed inside. The first alien dropship exploded while it was still 5 miles above the ground. Lisa's converted mining laser had sliced through its hull like cutting paper. The second ship tried to change course, but Sam Torres was ready with another laser array. The alien vessel broke apart in a ball of fire. Multiple contacts destroyed, Maria Gonzalez reported from her position at the flight control station. "Enemy is breaking formation and trying to scatter. Admiral Krexnoth watched from his flagship in orbit as his dropships began falling from the sky. "What is happening down there?" he demanded. "The humans appear to have hidden defensive systems," his tactical officer replied. "Our ships are taking heavy casualties." "Impossible. Our intelligence showed no military installations." "Sir, those mining facilities are not what they appeared to be. They're firing particle beams with the power of military-grade weapons." On the surface, the battle was intensifying. More alien ships made it through the laser fire and began landing around the colony. Zephyrian soldiers poured out of their vessels, expecting to face panicked civilians. Instead, they found themselves under attack from every direction. The colonists had prepared well. Hidden weapon positions opened fire from what had looked like rock formations. The miners who had been living quiet family lives revealed themselves as trained soldiers who knew how to fight. Even the children had been moved to secure bunkers that were better protected than most military bases. Tony Walsh ran toward the colony's transportation hangar. He was supposed to be the maintenance chief for their civilian aircraft, but today he had a different job. The hangar doors opened to reveal what the aliens thought was an emergency evacuation ship. In reality, it was a heavily armed gunship that Lisa and Maria had spent months converting from a cargo hauler. "Flight clearance approved," Maria's voice came through his headset. "Go make some noise, Tony." The ship lifted off and immediately began attacking the alien dropships that were still trying to land. Tony's gunship moved like a fighter plane, dodging enemy fire while returning devastating attacks. The Zephyrians had never seen a civilian transport fight like a military interceptor. Back at the command center, Jake watched the battle unfold in amazement. "How long have you been planning this?" he asked Ben. "Since the day we arrived," Ben replied while coordinating the defense. "Every person who volunteered for this colony was chosen for their military background. We told Earth Command we wanted experienced people who could handle frontier life. We just didn't mention that most of our experience was in combat." An alarm sounded. "Orbital bombardment ships are charging weapons." Lisa's voice came through the radio. "They're going to try to destroy us from space." Ben smiled grimly. "Not if we destroy them first." He activated another control panel. "Jake, remember those communication upgrades we installed last year? The ones for better contact with Earth?" "Yes, but they never seemed to work very well for regular communications." "That's because they weren't designed for regular communications." Ben's fingers moved across the controls. "Lisa, are you ready with the big surprise?" "Coordinates locked in, all systems green. Ready when you are." "What are you doing?" Jake demanded. "Remember those asteroids the sensors kept detecting at the edge of our system? The ones you thought were false readings?" Ben's finger moved to another button. They weren't asteroids. He pressed the button and Jake's world changed forever. High above the planet, hidden among the real asteroids that drifted through space, dozens of automated defense platforms came online. They had been waiting there for 2 years, disguised as space rocks armed with the most powerful weapons the colonists could build. The platforms had been designed by Lisa and launched secretly during supply runs that officially carried only mining equipment. The first orbital bombardment ship exploded without warning. Admiral Krexnoth spun around as alarms sounded throughout his flagship. "Report! Unknown weapons fire from multiple directions. We're under attack by automated defense systems." "Where did they come from?" "They appear to have been hidden in the asteroid field. Sir, these are not primitive weapons. Someone has been planning this for a very long time." Another Zephyrian ship exploded, then another. The hidden platforms moved through space like deadly hunters, picking off the larger vessels one by one. The aliens had expected to bombard a defenseless planet. Instead, they found themselves trapped in a carefully planned ambush. On the planet's surface, the ground battle was turning into a rout. The Zephyrian soldiers were brave and well-trained, but they were not prepared for what they faced. Every building in the colony had been designed with defense in mind. Every colonist knew exactly where to go and what to do. The aliens found themselves fighting not just soldiers, but an entire community that had been preparing for war while pretending to live in peace. Sam Torres led a group of colonists in a counterattack against a landing zone where alien reinforcements were trying to establish a base. The Zephyrians had advanced armor and powerful weapons, but Sam's people knew the terrain and fought with the desperate courage of people defending their homes. "Push them back to their ships," Sam called out. "Don't let them establish a foothold." The colonists advanced with the precision of a military unit, because that's exactly what they were, even though they had been farmers and miners just an hour ago. Maria Gonzalez coordinated air support, directing Tony's gunship and 2 other converted aircraft against enemy positions. The aliens had superior numbers, but the humans had superior preparation and the advantage of fighting on their home ground. In orbit, Admiral Krexnoth's fleet was being systematically destroyed. The hidden defense platforms continued their deadly work, and now human fighters launched from the planet's surface were joining the battle. Ships that had looked like civilian transports revealed hidden weapons and began attacking the remaining Zephyrian vessels. "Sir, we're losing ships faster than we can count them," the tactical officer reported. "Our assault force on the surface is requesting immediate evacuation." Krexnoth stared at the tactical display in disbelief. His mighty war fleet, which had conquered dozens of worlds, was being defeated by a tiny human mining colony. "How is this possible?" "Sir, I think we made a serious mistake about these humans." The Admiral looked at the timer on his display. The battle had been raging for exactly 15 minutes. In that time, he had lost more than half his fleet and most of his ground forces. The humans were not just winning. They were completely dominating a force 50 times their size. "All ships, begin emergency withdrawal," he ordered. "We're leaving this system immediately." But even retreat would not be easy. The human defense platforms had moved to block the escape routes, and the colonists seemed determined to destroy every alien ship that had dared to attack their home. Ben Rodriguez watched the tactical display as the alien fleet tried to flee. "Should we let them go?" he asked Jake. Jake looked at the display showing their beautiful colony, which had been home to hundreds of families just this morning. The aliens had come here to kill everyone he cared about. They had threatened to sterilize the entire planet. "No," Jake said quietly. "I don't think we should." Admiral Krexnoth stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching his once mighty fleet try to escape from the human colony. The void render shook as another explosion echoed through space nearby. Another of his ships had been destroyed by the hidden defense platforms that seemed to be everywhere. "Sir, we've lost 2/3 of our fleet," his tactical officer reported with fear in his voice. "The humans are not letting us withdraw easily." "How many ships do we have left?" Krexnoth asked. 47 combat vessels, sir. Down from 200. Most of our dropships were destroyed in the first few minutes of battle." The Admiral looked at the tactical display. Red markers showed destroyed Zephyrian ships scattered throughout the system. Green markers showed human defensive positions that had appeared from nowhere. His invasion force had been cut to pieces by what was supposed to be a defenseless mining colony. On the planet's surface, Jake Murphy stood in the colony command center, watching the alien fleet try to run away. The defense platforms in space were picking off enemy ships one by one, but some were getting through. Ben Rodriguez was coordinating the final phase of their counterattack. "Tony, how are you doing up there?" Ben called to the pilot of their converted gunship. "Having the time of my life," Tony's voice came back through the radio. "These alien ships are fast, but they don't know how to fight when they're running scared." Dr. Lisa Carter checked her weapons display. "Power levels are still good on all systems. We can keep this up for hours if we need to." Jake watched the battle and felt something he had never experienced before. For 3 years, he had thought of himself as a civilian administrator running a peaceful mining colony. Now he realized he had been commanding a military base disguised as a civilian settlement. The feeling was both terrifying and exciting. "Ben," Jake said quietly, "I need to understand something. How long have you all been planning this?" Ben looked up from his control panel. "Since before we left Earth, Jake. The Colonial Authority put out a call for volunteers to establish a mining operation on a frontier world. What they didn't advertise was that they were looking specifically for military veterans who wanted to start new lives." "You mean everyone here is former military?" Every adult, yes, Marines, Army, Navy, Air Force, some special forces, some regular infantry, some technical specialists. All of us served in the human-Centauri conflicts 20 years ago. Jake shook his head in amazement. Why didn't anyone tell me? Because you were supposed to be our civilian administrator. Your job was to run the colony and deal with Earth Command while we handled security. We figured if you didn't know about our military background, you'd act naturally when talking to outside authorities. An alarm sounded. One of the alien ships had broken through their defensive line and was trying to reach hyperspace jump distance. Ben activated the communication system and sent an open channel message to the fleeing vessel. Attention, Zephyrian ship. This is New Haven Colony. You are ordered to stop and surrender immediately. The response came back quickly. Admiral Krexnoth's voice filled the command center, angry and desperate. Human colony, this is Admiral Krexnoth of the Zephyrian Empire. We are withdrawing from your system. Allow us to leave and there will be no further conflict. Jake looked at Ben, who nodded and handed him the communication device. It was time for the colony administrator to speak for his people. Admiral Krexnoth, Jake said, his voice steady and calm. This is Colony Administrator Jake Murphy. You came to our home and threatened to kill our families. You brought a war fleet to destroy everything we've built here. Why should we let you leave alive to tell others about our location? There was a long pause before the alien admiral replied. You have defeated our force. You have proven your strength. We acknowledge your victory and request safe passage to leave your territory. That's not good enough, Jake said. You made a serious mistake today, Admiral. You assumed that because we live peacefully we are weak. You thought that because we mine minerals instead of building weapons we cannot fight. You were wrong. About everything. Dr. Lisa Carter activated her workstation and began transmitting data to the alien flagship. Admiral, I'm sending you detailed scans of our defensive capabilities. Study them carefully. Jake continued speaking while Lisa worked. What you're seeing now, Admiral, is just one small human colony on the edge of known space. We have over 300 similar settlements throughout this region of the galaxy. How many of them do you think are really just mining operations? Admiral Krexnoth's voice came back weaker than before. What are you saying? I'm saying that you attacked what you thought was humanity's weakest colony. But there are no weak human colonies, Admiral. There are only colonies that haven't been threatened yet. Ben Rodriguez added his own message. Admiral, every human settlement you might consider attacking is full of people like us. Veterans who chose civilian lives but never forgot how to be soldiers. Families who want peace but are ready for war. Communities that look defenseless but are actually fortresses. The tactical display showed more alien ships being destroyed by the defense platforms. The Zephyrian fleet was down to less than 30 vessels, and they were all trying desperately to reach safe jumping distance. Maria Gonzalez reported from the Flight Control Center. All human aircraft have returned safely. No casualties reported. Enemy ground forces have been completely eliminated. Jake felt a surge of pride for his people. Not one colonist had been killed in the battle. They had faced an invasion force 50 times their size and won without losing a single person. Admiral, Jake said into the communication system, I'm going to let some of your ships escape. Not because you deserve mercy, but because I want you to carry a message back to your empire and any other species that might be watching. What message? Krexnoth asked. The message is simple. Humans don't build weak colonies because we can't make them strong. We build what look like weak colonies because we trust our people to be strong when it matters. Every human settlement in space is defended by people who chose to be there, who will fight to protect it, and who have the skills and equipment to win. Sam Torres's voice came through the radio from his position near the destroyed alien landing zone. Jake, we've got prisoners here. About 50 enemy soldiers who surrendered when they realized their ships weren't coming back for them. Treat them well, Jake ordered. Give them medical attention and proper food. Let them see how humans treat defeated enemies. Ben nodded approvingly. Good thinking. When we eventually send them home, they'll tell their people that we're not just dangerous in battle, we're also honorable in victory. Admiral Krexnoth's flagship was finally reaching the edge of the system where it could safely jump to hyperspace. 15 other alien ships had managed to escape with him. Out of 200 vessels and 50,000 warriors, less than 800 Zephyrians would survive to tell the story of what happened at New Haven Colony. "Admiral," Jake said in his final transmission, "when you get home, make sure your government understands what happened here today. You didn't lose because we had better weapons or more ships. You lost because you misunderstood what it means to be human. We will remember." Admiral Kreksnuth replied quietly. "Good. And Admiral, if any other Zephyrian ships come to human space, make sure they come in peace, because the next human colony you attack might not be as merciful as we are." The alien ships jumped to hyperspace and disappeared, leaving behind the wreckage of their invasion fleet and the story of their defeat. In 15 minutes of combat, a small mining colony had destroyed one of the most powerful war fleets in known space. Jake Murphy looked around the command center at his people. Ben Rodriguez, the security chief who was really a military commander. Dr. Lisa Carter, the engineer who was really a weapons specialist. All of them had been living double lives ready for this moment. "So what happens now?" Jake asked. Ben smiled. "Now we go back to mining, and we wait to see who else in the galaxy is foolish enough to mistake human civilians for easy targets." 3 weeks after the battle, life in New Haven Colony had returned to what most people would call normal. The miners were back to extracting ore from the planet's crust. Children played between the domes after school. Families shared meals in the communal dining hall and talked about their daily routines. But normal was different now. The weapon systems that had been hidden were now openly visible, maintained and ready for use. The colonists walked with more confidence, knowing they had proven themselves in battle. Most importantly, everyone knew the truth about their neighbors and their community. Jake Murphy stood in his office, looking out at the mining operations that continued as they always had. The only visible signs of the recent battle were the scattered pieces of alien wreckage that had not yet been cleared away. Dr. Lisa Carter's teams were studying the enemy technology, finding ways to improve their own defensive systems. A communication alert sounded on Jake's desk. This time it was not an alien invasion fleet but a message from Earth Defense Force Command. Jake opened the transmission and saw the face of Captain Alex Stone, a man he had never met but whose reputation he knew. "Well, Colony Administrator Murphy," Captain Stone said from his ship's bridge. "This is Captain Stone aboard the EDF Cruiser Defender. We received your emergency transmission about the alien attack. We're arriving to provide assistance and investigate the incident." Jake smiled. "Captain Stone, this is Jake Murphy. We appreciate your concern, but the situation has been resolved. The alien invasion force was repelled with no casualties among our personnel." There was a pause as Captain Stone processed this information. "Mr. Murphy, our records show that New Haven Colony has no military installations or defensive capabilities. How did you repel an invasion force?" "That's a longer story, Captain. Why don't you come down to the surface and we'll explain everything." 2 hours later, Captain Stone and a small team of EDF investigators stood in the New Haven Colony Command Center, staring at displays that showed weapon systems, defensive positions, and tactical readouts that would have impressed a military base commander. "This is impossible," Captain Stone said. "According to our files, this is a civilian mining operation with basic emergency equipment." Ben Rodriguez stepped forward. "Captain, I'm Ben Rodriguez, Colony Security Chief and former Marine Gunnery Sergeant. Would you like me to explain our actual defensive capabilities?" Captain Stone looked at Ben with new understanding. "You're military." "We all are, Captain. Every adult in this colony served in the human-Centauri conflicts. We came here to build peaceful lives, but we never forgot our training." Dr. Lisa Carter joined the conversation. "Captain, would you like to see how we converted our mining equipment into defensive systems? The modifications are quite impressive." As the EDF team toured the colony, they saw the truth behind New Haven's civilian appearance. Every building had been designed with defense in mind. The mining equipment could be reconfigured as weapons in minutes. The transportation vehicles were armed and armored. Even the children's playground had hidden bunkers underneath. "How long have you been planning this?" Captain Stone asked. "Since before we left Earth," Jake replied. The colonial authority quietly recruited military veterans for frontier settlements. They wanted people who could handle emergencies and defend themselves if necessary. Captain Stone reviewed the battle recordings that the colonists had made. "You destroyed a fleet of 200 ships with less than 900 people? Teamwork and preparation," Sam Torres said with a grin. "Plus the element of surprise. The aliens expected to find helpless civilians. Instead, they found a well-armed and well-trained military unit disguised as a mining colony. While the EDF team investigated New Haven, the story of the battle was spreading throughout known space. Admiral Krexnoth had returned to the Zephyrian Empire with only 15 ships and 800 survivors from his original force of 50,000 warriors. His report to the Zephyrian High Command was read with disbelief and growing alarm. The Caltharian Republic, which had been planning attacks on 3 human mining colonies, quietly canceled their invasion plans. The Vrex Confederation began reviewing intelligence reports about human settlements, wondering how many other civilian colonies were actually military bases in disguise. On the planet Nexus Prime, the Galactic Council convened an emergency session. Representatives from dozens of species gathered to discuss the implications of what had happened at New Haven Colony. Ambassador Helen Brooks represented humanity at the council meeting. She was a diplomatic veteran who had negotiated treaties throughout the galaxy for 20 years. Today, she faced questions from species who were suddenly very concerned about human colonial expansion. "Ambassador Brooks," said Councillor Vexhai of the Drekmari Union, "we need to understand the true nature of human colonies. Are they civilian settlements or military installations?" Helen smiled calmly. "Councillor, our colonies are exactly what they appear to be. Communities of humans who want to build new lives on frontier worlds. The fact that many of our colonists happen to be military veterans is simply a reflection of who volunteers for such challenging assignments. But they possess military-grade weapons and defensive systems," protested Representative Kexlon of the hegemony of Keth. "They possess the tools necessary to protect their families and their homes," Helen replied. "Humans have learned through hard experience that peaceful intentions do not guarantee peaceful neighbors." The Altarian delegate, a tall being with blue skin, stood to speak. "Ambassador, your colonies appear weak but are actually strong. This deception concerns many of our species." Helen's expression became serious. "With respect, delegate, there is no deception. New Haven Colony was indeed a mining operation run by civilian families. The fact that those families were prepared to defend themselves when attacked does not make them dishonest. It makes them human." She activated a holographic display showing the locations of human colonies throughout the galaxy. Every one of these settlements was established by volunteers who wanted to build something better than what they left behind. Most of them are farmers, miners, researchers, and engineers. But yes, many of them also happen to be military veterans who chose civilian lives. "Why do so many of your veterans become colonists?" asked the Zephyrian representative, who had arrived just hours after receiving Admiral Krexnoth's report. "Because soldiers understand the value of peace better than anyone," Helen said. "They've seen what war costs and they want to build something worth protecting. When you threaten their new homes and their families, you remind them why they learned to fight in the first place." The council chamber was quiet as the representatives considered her words. Many species had viewed human expansion with suspicion, but few had understood the motivation behind it. "Ambassador," said the Vrex representative, "what message should we take back to our governments about human intentions?" Helen stood and looked around the chamber at the dozens of alien faces watching her. "Tell your governments that humans want to live in peace with all species. We establish colonies to build better lives, not to threaten our neighbors. But also tell them that if they attack human settlements expecting easy victories, they will discover that peaceful people can be very dangerous when their families are threatened." Back on New Haven Colony, Jake Murphy filed his final report about the incident. He kept the language simple and direct, the way military reports were supposed to be written. Alien invasion force of approximately 200 vessels attacked New Haven Colony at 14:30 local time. Colony defensive systems activated successfully. Enemy force repelled with 0 friendly casualties. 50 enemy prisoners captured and treated according to standard protocols. Mining operations resumed normal schedule following cleanup of battle debris. Request commendations for all colony personnel for outstanding performance under combat conditions. He paused before adding the final line. Also request that future colonial volunteers be informed that their neighbors might be more interesting than they appear. That evening, Jake walked through the colony as the sun set over Kepler 442c. Children were playing games between the domes while their parents prepared dinner. The mining equipment hummed quietly in the distance. Everything looked peaceful and normal. Ben Rodriguez joined him for the evening walk. "Any regrets about learning the truth?" Ben asked. Jake thought about it. "No regrets. I'm proud of what we accomplished here. I just wish I had known sooner that I was living among heroes." "We're not heroes," Ben said. "We're just people who chose to build something worth defending." As they walked, Jake noticed that several new families had arrived on the latest supply ship. New colonists who wanted to join the community that had become famous throughout the galaxy as the place where a few hundred humans had defeated an alien war fleet. "Think the new arrivals know what they're getting into?" Jake asked. Ben smiled. "Some of them probably do. Word gets around in military circles. I suspect our next batch of miners and engineers will be very well qualified to handle emergencies." High above them, the automated defense platforms continued their silent watch over the system. The galaxy had learned an important lesson about human colonies, but New Haven would remain ready in case someone needed a reminder.